All right, gang. I got the Delta bullet motor up on the bench. If this is original to my saw, and there's no reason to believe that it isn't, this is a 1953 vintage. I got to just connect it up here. I'll try to get you in so you can see everything. I've done a bunch of these, and each one has ended up making me swear at some point in time, so I'll try to keep that to an effing minimum in this video. Hey, if you like what you see here or you found it interesting or useful, why don't you give that subscribe button a click, maybe give us a like, maybe hit the little bell thingy, lets you know when we put up new videos. What? Huh? Oh, my lawyer would like a word with you.
Danger, Will Robinson! Danger! No, Will Robinson! Danger!
First thing, let's take off the pulley. I realize you can't see that very good. This thing's heavy and it's unwieldy. I got this thing here underneath there just to keep it straight. So let's loosen up the set screw. There we go. These usually aren't too bad. Sometimes they are. Nope, this guy's gonna come off. I'll just wait a little bit. Okay. All right, pulley. Take the little key out of there. Put that in my Greek yogurt jar here. All right, so that's easy. Second thing is, let's get you back on this side, and this particular motor does not run. That's why I was able to get the saw so cheap. The first thing you want to try, all it does when you plug it in, I know that the windings are good, or at least one of them is, it just vibrates and hums a little bit. Don't leave it going like that for any length of time. It'll start getting hot, and that ain't cool for these motors. So there's these two plates here. There's this one, and everything on this thing is a standard screwdriver. So there we go. All right, and you get in here to this plate. Modern motors usually on the data plate will, if they are reversible, and not all of them are, but if they are, they'll say something like, switch the red and the black wires to get it to rotate the other way. This guy has a plate in here that you loosen up some screws on the end here, and you tell it which way to go by looking in here. I'll try to get you in here to see how that looks here. I don't know how well you can see it, but there's some marks on this thing. I got them sanded a little bit. And this thing spins if I loosen up these two screws on the end here. There's this one here, and there's one underneath here. So you just loosen them up. Don't take them out, just loosen them up. And then you can see there's an R and there's an L on the other side. So here, let's get back on the tripod here. And I'll try to get that centered again so you can see. Okay, so let's loosen these two screws. Again, standard head, and again, loosen them. Don't take them out. There's captive screws on the other side that'll fall out if you do that. Okay, so this is the first thing you want to do. Okay, so they're loosened. So now this thing rotates. Okay, and again, I'll get you in here. There's a little tick mark, almost like the timing mark on your car, right there. Right there. And then there's these marks here. This particular one, if you can see, also has a little pinprick mark right there. That was probably when they timed the motor to right about there. Once we get her back running again, I'll show you that in a little more detail. But okay, so as per usual, we take off the bolts that hold her together. Let's see, where is my socket wrench? Right here. These are 3/8. That one's already off. Hold the other end. That guy. That guy. And that guy. Oh, not that guy yet. Okay. He's really off from the other end. so these guys all come out. Put them in my yogurt container there. All right, now on either end of this motor, there is a bearing. There's one over here and there's one on the other side here. And those bearings are press fit on the outside and the inside. Those bearings look like this, okay? And they're friction fit or they're press fit, so this isn't gonna come apart that easy. What you do is you get yourself an Acme size Wile E. Coyote rubber hammer and you beat on it while you're pulling it, and that'll generally get it apart. I frown on getting something in here and try to pry it, but if that's what you gotta do, it's what you gotta do. And it is hot in the shop today. Hot like the Mary Jane girls in the 80s. You younger guys, you can look that up on YouTube. I'm gonna drink what I'm gonna call iced tea a lot because I'm sweating. All right, so I'm pushing on the shaft and I'm hitting this. Oh, this guy came right off. You'll never see that, including this time. That has happened once in my life. Now, when you take this off, there's spring-loaded brushes in here. There's 4 of them. You're gonna wanna be careful with that. Yeah, she's stuck again, so. There she comes. Let's get this guy out of the way. See if we can pull this off. Oh, wow. That was the easiest this has ever come off in my entire life. Okay, you can see that the bearing, this guy right here, was on here. And the friction fit was apparently tighter on the outer diameter than it was on the inner diameter. That also usually doesn't happen. Okay? So let's get to this guy. Get this guy out of the way. Ugh. We'll get this guy in here. Okay. So there's these brushes. They all look in good shape, by the way. These are nice and long, they're not burnt down, with these springs here. So you want to unspring load them. Place them gently back in there. All I'm doing is taking this spring out the top and then gently releasing it so it goes down there. Out the top, gently releasing it. These are those 2 captive screws I talked about, right here and right here. And the reason you don't want to take these screws on the outside out when you're just adjusting that plate is that those screws from the inside can fall out. Now you got a loose screw inside of your motor and you don't want that. So there's a screw out. There's a screw out. All right, so now let's see how that thing comes out. They're kind of captive screws. I'll show you when we get them out. And this thing's got to come out as a unit, the whole thing. Okay, there we go. And you can see they're captive screws. So now I can take them out one at a time. Okay. I'll clean this up very carefully with some contact cleaner and stuff. You can see it's kind of dirty. These wires can be fragile. And see, it's fraying a little bit. I'll have to clean those up too. So be careful with this. It's a fragile piece. This piece doesn't want to come out usually. You can get it out, but I always see no reason to. Okay, and now we have the bearing. And you can see this bearing is a little munged up in there. Okay. So what we're going to do here is we're going to move this. Let's see what we have here. We're going to move this very carefully out of the way. Okay. And there's this little cap in there. little brass cap that you can pop off from the other side. Cap is off. And now we have to get that bearing out of there. How are we going to do that? Well, you can use an internal bearing puller. That works the best. I don't have an internal bearing puller. Okay, so what I'm going to use is a flat-bladed screwdriver and a ball peen hammer. And I'm going to very gently switch it around to either side. This one's coming right out. This guy's coming right out. Very nice. Being as careful as I can there. Okay. Now, there's some pieces that come out with it. These 3 pieces. Here's where it goes in. We'll set this aside. There's these 3 pieces that come out with it. Okay? It's got some grease on them. 72-year-old grease. There's a bearing, or there's a washer, there's a felt washer, and there's a spring washer. As you can see, these bearings are offset. Here's the new one. They're offset. The offset side goes to the inside of the motor. On either side, they all go on the inside of the motor. So this guy's, he's still in round, he still works good, but as long as I'm in here, I'll replace him. These bearings, the order is important, okay? Normally it's the spring, and then the washer, and then the felt washer. New bearings are lubricated for life, as are the old bearings. But they still get some squeeze out. You can see right there. So that's what this felt washer is, basically a seal. Now I'll put this out here. Now, I've done this before, and it's very difficult to film, so what I'm gonna do is, I've already got it off. And that is this little ring here, okay? How do you get that ring off, Rob? That's the whole thing to this whole deal. It's hard. I don't know what to tell you. I have any number of ring pliers. Okay, these don't work. I'll show you that in just a second. It's just hard to get off what we call the shorting necklace inside here. What is a shorting necklace? I'll explain that to you when we get this off. So there's a groove way in here that this ring sits on, and this ring is a piece of spring steel that's very strong. Again, I already have it off because I didn't want to film me grunting and groaning and sweating, okay? The way I get them off, and the best way that I have found, and there's better ways out there, but I don't know them, okay? I'm not saying this is the only way. I'm not even saying this is the best way. I'm just saying this is the way that I use, and it has worked for me, okay? So what is that? It's the 3 screwdriver method, all right? What I do is, when it's in there, I get this itty bitty tiny little screwdriver underneath it, okay? It won't come out of that groove in there with just this little tiny screwdriver. I'll break the screwdriver. So then I get another flat blade screwdriver, and I literally pound it in with a hammer to get underneath here, okay? Then I can pull it up a little bit, and I'll slip this screwdriver underneath there. Then you gotta get another screwdriver and do the same thing about halfway around so that you can lift it out of that groove, and then it'll pop off. Watch your eyes, watch your floor, this thing will go flying, okay? So that is the hardest piece to get out of there. And if you can look here, see if I can show you, let's see if I can get her in focus here. Maybe a little. These guys, I don't think they did it on purpose, but these are angled. See how they're angled? See how they're angled out? So you can't get the snap ring pliers in there. I have found no other way than the way that I just described to you to get these guys out of there. It is a bear. I can do it fairly quickly nowadays, but the first couple of times I couldn't. It took a long time, and that's where a lot of the swearing came in, okay? All right, so now we have access to the shorting necklace. That's what they call it, and I'll tell you all about why they do that. And this should kind of slide right off. I've had this apart before, so it should come right off. There it is. Okay. This is the shorting necklace. What is the shorting necklace? All right. Motors, okay. AC motors, okay. Single phase induction AC motors have generally 2 windings in here. Okay, what is a winding? A winding is just a coil of wire, and when you pass electricity through a coil of wire, it turns it into an electromagnet, and that's what spins your motor. Okay, so it's not that easy. What happens again in modern motors is that there needs to be 2 different sets of windings in there. One winding is used to start the motor from stop when it requires a lot of torque, just to start it up. Once it gets started up, it switches over to the running winding, okay, which is generally the larger of the windings. And this thing is what switches it over. In modern motors, they will have what's called a centrifugal switch. It's just 2 weights that are on a spring, that are spring-loaded in, and once the motor spins fast enough, centripetal force will overcome the force of the spring, and those weights will come out, and that's what switches it over to the other winding. On these, it apparently was before that time, okay, they use this thing, which is called a shorting necklace, all right? If you can see, I'll bring you in close again. Hopefully it'll focus. There's all of these little copper pieces here. I don't know, there's 100 of them in there that are just laying in there, so don't lose them. They are retained in there. They're retained close to the middle by this spring that goes around the outside, which is called the shorting necklace. Okay? You can see that spring, I can take it off for you. If I'm careful not to send these parts flying. This spring holds them in. Without that spring, watch them here. See, they can go anywhere they want. Okay? This is what the spring on this one looked like. It's in a couple of pieces and it's broke. And this is very common on these bullet motors. Very common. So what did I do? I had this spring made. Well, what do you mean you had it made? I had to pay a minimum charge, but I took very careful measurements of this guy with my micrometer and caliper, and I talked to a local spring manufacturing place, and I gave them the dimensions, and they said, oh, sure, but we have a $150 minimum. Needless to say, I got a bunch of these. I say, how many can I get? You know, they said we can make you 1 for 150, or we can make you 25 for 150. I said, why don't you make me 25? Okay, so that's what they did. And then I took a little set screw on the inside there, because it just came out as straight, and made it round. So here is what you do. You push all these guys in, you get you centered, and then you very carefully, and this takes a bit of practice too, because these guys never want to cooperate. Okay, you put that spring around there, you very carefully stretch it around until it looks like that. Now it is retaining all of those pieces. Okay, let's move on. Get the motor back here. It looks pretty good here. I'm going to clean that up, of course. You can see some stuff there. I'm going to, of course, clean that up. And how do we get the other side out? How do we remember what I told you? There's another one of those bearings right in here. You can force it out this way by pressing it this way, and it'll either come off the shaft or it'll come out of the thing there. That's generally the best way to do it. Okay, so again, Wile E. Coyote, oversized rubber mallet. I can see that it's moving. I'm supporting the far end. I don't want it to rub. It does a little bit anyhow. There we go. Very carefully take that out. All right. Now, this guy. I'm pushing from the inside. There it comes. There we go. Okay, that's the other side. All right. Here's the inside of the motor. I'll clean all this up. I'll look very carefully at all of these coils. Even though it looks like there's not, like these wires, you can tell they have insulation on them, right? These wires do have insulation. It's very thin. It is with a varnish, actually, that gets painted on there. So it's a very thin insulation. And you want to be very gentle with all of this stuff. And when you clean it, contact cleaner, whatever. I'll probably show you that later. Okay? So now we have this guy. The guts of the motor, the rotor, the commutator, the internal part, whatever you want to call it. Same thing with the spring here. I have noticed on most of these, not on all of them, but on most of them, this end does not have that little spring washer. It just has these two. Okay? I'm checking this bearing right here. It spins freely. Still got some grease coming out of it. There's no longitudinal play. There's no lateral play. I see no reason to replace that. Okay? We have some interesting engraving here. I don't know what that means, but... And then there's this piece. This is kind of interesting here, too. I'll show you. These things here, these little fuzzy things, they're lead. They're little lead pellets that have been swaged onto this plate. I can only assume it's to balance the motor. Okay, so that's just kind of interesting. Tear down pretty much complete. This is as far as I'm going to take it. As I told you, I'm going to clean everything up. And then we'll come back and we'll put it back together. So I'll see you in just a little bit after I get her all cleaned up. Okay, got my handy dandy brake cleaner, non-chlorinated. Just spray some on here. I use steel wool. Some guys will use emery cloth. Some guys will use Scotch-Brite. This is 4/0 steel wool. Okay, same thing up here. Give her a little shot maybe on here. Just kind of clean it up a little bit. This guy is in remarkably good shape. I don't know if someone has gone through this before. I've never seen one this easy or this good. I haven't even sworn. Okay, all these look pretty good. We're gonna clean her up on the inside here a little bit. Yeah, this must have been gone through before. I hosed her all with some compressed air before I started, but it was really clean in there. Let's see if I can back you up a little bit. Okay. All right, so I also like put a little silicone lubricant after I clean that stuff up. It can't hurt. Don't hose it down, but you know, put a little bit on there. All right, so as I recall, this guy went in here, and I am going to reach through and try as gently as I can to slide them in there. Okay. Make sure we're back on here. Okay. more silicone lube. Shaft there. All right, so now this guy, and remember, this right here is going to go over this bearing here. So let's slide that on, and I'm holding the motor on the other end. Boy, that just slipped in very easily. I can't believe my luck on this. Okay. Turn it around. I'm going to slide this back underneath here just to hold it up so you can see. All right. And we have our new bearing here. Okay, remember what I told you? The part that sticks out goes in. Let's put the shorting collar, shorting necklace on first. Okay, here we go. And now let's get that little hog leg retainer thing. Okay, so here's what I've come up with. This is a 15/16 deep well socket. And it's the multi, it's not the 6, it's the 12. It's the 12 tooth one. And put that on here and whack it. And it will drive that. This thing's perfectly sized, so it'll drive that on. And that is what has happened. Okay, I didn't mung up anything here, so that looks good. I did not hit this section where the bearing goes. Okay, so that bearing, I'm going to start it. This is the new bearing. I have made a tool, in quotes, that is just a piece of pipe. The ID is such that it slides over that, and I can get a nice, see, I get a nice even drive on there. You'll also see guys use sockets, and that's fine also. There, I know that that's on there. Okay. So that clip retains the shorting necklace, and that's the bearing there. Remember what I told you about the bearing. Here's the end. Put them in here, right? We'll put the felt one on, get that little piece of crap out of there. We'll put the spacer in, and we'll put the spring on. Okay, now before we go, let me move this stuff so we'll get you centered in the frame again. Okay, I'm gonna put this collar back into here. Let's bring you in here close again so that you can see this. Okay, so if you look really close, let me get my little pointer screwdriver again. There it is. If you look really close in here, you can see right here, I'm sure you can. You can see right here and right here, there's a little pin that sticks out. See if I can rotate that, get a better look at it. There we go. Right there. And then you can see on these screws, the slot there has to line up with those pins. And it's a very tight tolerance. So what you do is you put these guys in first, and you get that slot lined up. And you get that slot all lined up. Here's another one of those places where I tend to swear a lot. And then we can put Wowza. Oh, got it. Wow. Okay, I got both of them in there. I'm going to put my fingers on these, and I do not want those to come out, okay? It is definitely not something I want. I also don't want to bend this up too bad. So I got my fingers on them. Just going to get these guys started. Come on. Get them barely finger tight. Oh, okay, that was only that. Okay, where's the other screw? There he is. You little rascal. Okay. Let's get this other guy just started barely finger tight. Okay. All right. So those guys are in. Now. Okay. Now we'll bring this guy back forward. Oh man, these things are heavy. Okay, we'll put this under here for support. Okay, here's another little hint I'm going to give you too. So these springs have to push down on these brushes. If you take these springs and you put them up here, but you leave them on the edge here, okay? Don't put them down in the slot where they push that guy out, okay? Leave them on the edge where they're around, but not pushing them down. And again, it's a fine touch kind of deal, and they'll probably spring open on you a couple of times, but I have found that this is see, that one just sprang open just by not even touching anything. Now remember, when I'm putting this on, it's that press fit on the outside of that bearing. So it's not going to want to go on real easy. I'm going to put this, hold this side in, and I'm going to gently tap this on. Get it lined up, gently tap it on. Okay. Set it against my belly. There we go. Hammer on. All right. Now to insert these guys. And there's a certain way that these guys go. You can feel them when they go through. They got to line up a certain way. You just rotate. Okay. Now, remember what I told you? Up in here, we have to release each one of these 4 springs into there's 2 of them. Good. 3 of them are good. And this thing will spin all the way around, okay? So I just checked out all 4 of these, and what I have to do is I have to make sure that in this window, that because there's the mark, right, those timing marks from the inside are there. There they are. Okay, put it on right. We'll snug these guys down a little bit. Snug down. There are a lot of tight tolerance parts in this thing. Okay, snug down. Now, as you recall, we're going to put this little cap back in here. Get that in with this rubber mallet. There we go. Make sure this guy spins freely. He does. That's it for the motor. Should work fine. Okay, got it back, just wired up with some wire nuts real quick. That goes into like a circuit breaker multiple outlet deal, just for safety in case something's screwed up the circuit breaker and this will trip when I push this. I don't believe it is. So you can see in here I got that alignment mark lined up with the R. I know that this motor should spin counterclockwise for the use in my particular saw, so you want to check that out too. Make sure. Now comes the moment of truth. Remember, it did not run at all before. Let's see what happens. There you go. Runs smooth as a clock. Very nice. I'm very happy with that. New bearing. It's going to take quite a while to spin down, so I got that new bearing in there because I damaged the one taking it off. I think that one was fine. I just damaged it when I pulled it off because it was tight. So there you go. The two takeaways from this, the 2 parts that I always struggle with are that little hog clip, that C-clip that holds on the shorting necklace, and those alignment of those 2 holes, or those 2 bolts that hold on this guy, I'm gonna unplug this just for safety, but that hold the brushes on. Brushes looked in great shape, everything. This motor is as good as new. I have no qualms at all about putting it in that saw. I don't even think I'm gonna paint it. I might touch this up a little bit, but honestly, that's about it. I'm very, very happy. If you have any questions or comments, or you notice maybe you got a better way to take that hog ring off, maybe you got a better way to align those holes, please let me know in the comments. Okay, so after action on the Delta bullet motor, what would I do different? How could I improve it? I don't know, it worked pretty good. I got to come up with a better way to take off that ring that holds the shorting necklace on. But other than that, it works fabulous. It was great. It was kind of an easy rebuild. I have a whole bunch of those shorting necklace springs, so reach out in the comments or something if you want one. There's nothing I can do, and I'm not going to build, I'm not going to rebuild 40 of them, so I'll have them. All in all, a great project on a great motor. Thanks for watching. Hey you, yeah, you, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already.